Gentlemen and ladies, for me, it's a tremendous pleasure to be back again at Sacred Arts College, where I learned, where I did my second and third year of physics ages ago. Don't ask me how long ago. It'll make me feel old. But it was very long ago. But it's a pleasure to come back here again. Having completed my BSc in physics from this institution, of course. The college has changed a great deal, both in its outward and inward appearances. Outwardly, we didn't have this hall at that time. There was only that one hall there, the Father Saleh's hall. And it was not it was a men's-only college. So we had strikes every second day. We would come, the bell would ring at 9 or 9:30. In half an hour, there would be some sloganeering, shouting, fighting between various groups, SFI and KSU, and the long bell would ring and we would all go back home. And that's when the CMI decided to make this a mixed college, and thereafter it's been absolutely peaceful, thanks to the young ladies here. It's a pleasure, therefore, to see all of you once again, be in the college once again. It's a pleasure to see that the changes here are not only outward, like this beautiful hall, but I think the college has also changed in the short time I was here. I was here in July for the postgraduate, I think the beginning of the session, I don't know what you call it, the Varsharambam, the beginning of the session. Sorry, what do you call that? Vidyarambam, sorry. Vidya Pande Arambhichada, anyway, Vidyarambam starts when you're 4 or 5, but whatever it is. I was here and it's a pleasure to be back again. The soul of the college has changed. The brains of the college has changed. And therefore, in my time, this college would have never thought of holding a training session like this for civil service aspirants. I'm sure if there was a training session like this, I would have made it to the IAS the first time I wrote it. Unfortunately, the first time I wrote it, I didn't make it quite to the IAS. I made it to the IPS. I joined the police service. I'm never made to be a policeman, so I hated the 1 year I spent in the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel National Academy of Administration in Mussoorie. But I wrote the exam a second time and thankfully made it. Now, I'm sure that if the college had a training session such as this one, or if our gentleman, where is he? The gentleman from who held the session in the morning? Sorry, Vijay? Vijay Jagdish. If somebody like him was around, I may have made it the first time and perhaps into the service. So anyway, this is something, therefore, a great step that Sacred Arts College has taken, and I must congratulate all of you for being here, but I must congratulate San Jose, Professor San Jose. I think he has left us. He's the person who is personally behind the program. And he has been ideating it, he has been planning it, he has been bringing all of you together here, he's brought me here. So Professor San Jose requires a big round of applause. I'm sure you will give him a big round. There it is. Handsome, good-looking young bachelor. He's not married yet, isn't it? He's married? No, good, yeah. So a big round of applause again. So basically it's a pleasure to come here and speak to all of you. Pleasure a pleasure to be able to see you and speak to you. And I'm sure this will be a turning point in your careers, to be able to write the IAS exam in a way that will enable you to get into the service. I need not tell you that the Indian Civil Service is one of the most, how do I say, sought after jobs, not only within the country, but I would say within the world. I was in the UN Civil Service for 20 years, having been deputed initially from the government of India to join the UN for 2 years. That turned out to be a 20-long year. And I can tell you with all sincerity that the Indian Civil Service is much more stronger than the International Civil Service of the UN. mainly because the recruit method is very different. I'll come to that later. So you getting a job, getting a placement in the Indian civil service is something will change your lives. And I'm sure that all of you, or at least some of you, I'm sure, all will make it to the IAS or the civil service. There are 23 services, as you know, and every one of you should make it to one of the services. Good luck to you. Now, how do you make it to the civil service? You got to prepare for it. The most toughest, I would say, is the preliminaries, because as I come to later, about 1 million, 10 lakh applicants apply for it, about 7 or 8 lakh write for it, and then only about I think about 15-20,000 make it into the mains, pass the preliminaries. So that's very important, and then comes, of course, the mains, which I'm sure in the morning sessions they've given you an idea of how the mains are, there are 9 subjects in it. 2 are compulsory, but one of them, or either of them, the language and English, you only have to pass it. Its mark is not reckoned for the total. That decides whether you get into the service, that decides the rank. And then, of course, there are the general science subjects, they're the optionals, which I'm sure you know much better than me, because I wrote this exam ages ago. So you got to get past the preliminaries, you got to get past the mains, and then you got to get past the interview. To make it, therefore, I think what is most important is hard work. You can't make it without hard work. The 2 times I wrote it, the first time I wrote it, I told you I did not quite make it to the IAS. I was in the Indian Police Service because my rank fell short. The rank fell short because even though the rank fell short, for about 3-4 months, maybe 4 months, I shut myself up in a room and studied for the exam for 12, 13, 14 hours. I had not seen the sun rise or the sun set. It's about 3-4 months, yes. So it's hard work. You can't displace that. And the next time also the same thing. You got to really work hard for it. I think you know that. But then it also requires, I think more importantly, a mental attitude. And a mental attitude, a confidence, yes, that you will make it. I got this confidence because the first time I wrote a competitive exam was one of the more sought after competitive exams other than the UPSC at that time. It was an exam for being selected as the probationary officer in the State Bank of India, which was a big thing then. I went with I was in the first year MSc, I went with a few of my seniors who were in the second year. I just wanted to test out, to find out how to write a competitive exam. To cut a long story short, I was the only one who got selected to the State Bank of India as a probationary officer. That gave me a lot of confidence. I think you'll require the confidence. You should have that mental, and that's what I spoke about, the attitude that you can make it. A bit of a confidence is good, but the confidence should not be overconfidence. Overconfidence sometimes trips you up. A confidence should be only so that you don't feel that, okay, I won't make it and therefore give up studying. Overconfidence will be very different, and it also requires a lot of mental orientation. You've got to start thinking and working towards writing this exam. It's a mental process as much as a process of studying and writing down and working for it. I'd say you're all young people, you should have a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year plan. If you're preparing to write the exam tomorrow, yes, it's good. But look for the longer run, a 2-year period at least, a 3-year period perhaps, a 4-year period certainly. So look for a slightly longer sort of stretch. So that sort of planning is necessary. Now you'll ask me, why should I write the exam? I think that may be a superfluous question because you have already answered the question, and that's why you're all here. Why should you write the exam? Is a question that you have asked yourself and answered, otherwise you wouldn't have registered yourself for this conclave. There are many reasons, but I'll go to a couple of reasons why you should write this exam, why the advantages of being in the civil service. Let me list out some of them for you. Number one, it's got a fairly good salary. I'm not saying that you'll get 3 or 4 lakhs a month. Your pay will not be 25 lakhs or 30 lakhs in a year. You won't get the pay you will get in, say, Adobe or in Microsoft or whatever. No, you won't get that. But I think by Indian standards, in the standards of our middle-class families in Kerala and across India, you get a fairly good salary. The starting salary is around rupees 65,000 or so per month, which works out to, correct me if I'm wrong, which works out about 7.5 lakhs per month. That's what you get in hand. But the advantage of the civil service of the IAS, IPS, IRS, IAS, and all the other 22 services is not the salary that you get in hand. That's certainly good enough, I think. 72,000, 75,000 rupees a month is it's not a small amount. It's more than, you can do a fairly good life with that. But then it is not only the salary, there are many non-salary benefits that you get as a new entrant, which you will enjoy, of course, depending on the service. A car with flashing red lights as a sub-collector or an assistant collector, there will be a constable sitting in front of you, protecting you. You don't need protection. If ever you need protection in the IAS, then I think you must have done a bad job. So you have a car, you get a good house in many places, you get to travel a lot, travel at sarkari expense, as government expense. You get a lot of staff, private secretaries, confidential assistants, this, that. So it's not the money that you get as a salary every month that is the only focus. It's also the tremendous non-monetary benefits that you get: house, car, staff, a bodyguard and friend. What do you call them these days? A gunman and friend, though I wondered whether he'll carry a gun on all days. But yeah, these are the perks of office. And if you take into consideration all this, then the salary will be well over 15, 20, well between 15, 20 lakhs a month, depending on which state you are in. Some states are very, very generous in these. Some states are not so generous. So that's one part, the salary, the moolah part of it, the money part of it, the comfort part of it. Second, the opportunities that you get. Tremendous opportunities. You get to meet people, you get to meet people in power, chief ministers, governors, presidents, ministers, and they were all applauding San Jose when I said you are a bachelor, so thanks for coming back. So you get to meet people, you get to meet film stars, you get to meet people in the literary, in the field, directors, producers, ministers, presidents, governors, chief ministers, prime minister, yes, but very difficult. But then many others. You get to meet industrialists, the top industrialists of the state, of the country. Second, you are able to perform. You got opportunities to perform, do things. If you are socially committed, I'm sure all of you will be socially committed. You get to perform, do things, change the environment in which the place you work is, change for the better. You can be politically influenced, and that will be a bad situation, but if you don't fall to the temptation of political influences, you can do a thoroughly professional job. This is a service that allows you to do thoroughly professional job at the state level, at the national level. It very important, and it enables you to help poor people. I think one of the things that all of you, and even to some extent me at my old age, we all have a social conscience. And this is one job where you can help people not as lucky as you or me. Help people who are socially oppressed, socially, economically oppressed. Help the poor. I mean, it's a very crude way to put it, help the poor. But yes, this is a job that enables you to help it in many myriad ways. It enables you to do good. Power can be used for good and power can be used for doing bad. You got a lot of power when you are in the civil service, in the IAS, and whichever service, Indian Administrative Service, Police Service, Revenue Service, IAS Service, the Indian Railway Service, whatever. Do good with that. When you get selected, I'm sure many, if not all of you will get into it. Use the power that you have to do good. Power can always be misutilized. I won't even say misutilized. Power can be used for harming others. Power can be used, let me put it this way, power can be left unused. You have the power, but you never raise the pen to use it. And then you can use your power for doing good. Do good with your power. You can do lots of good in this service. So you got great opportunities to meet people, to perform, to do a professional job, to help the poor, and most important, you get the opportunity to do good. One. Two, you will never feel bored in this job. Because unlike when you join a software company here in InfoPark, you do the same software work day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute, second after second, week after week, month after month, year after year. It's just programming. You get bored thoroughly. You move from one to the bench and then you get promoted. It's the same, I'm using a dirty word, bloody job that you'll be doing every day. You get bored with it. In the IAS and the civil service, you won't get bored with it. You got a tremendous wide variety of jobs. District collector and sub-collector's jobs are just part of it. Assistant collector's jobs are part of it. There are so many other jobs that you can have. I'll come back to that later. So it's also a glamorous job. You may not be as glamorous as, I don't know, Mammootty or Mohanlal or what's her name, Vidya Balan, or my favorite, Manju Warrior. But you'll certainly it's a very glamorous job. People will love to photograph you. You'll find yourself with photographs in the papers. People invite you for, he has invited me for giving talks. People invite you for inaugurations, for delivering talks. It's a very glamorous job. You are always up there on the podium, on the stage. It's a tremendously glamorous job. Your name appears in photographs and TV. You're always there. And then, of course, what I said earlier, I'm going to elaborate a bit more. Now you can bring about social change. Don't laugh at it. I think that's what, in heart of hearts, that give us the maximum satisfaction. You get satisfaction not by earning 10 lakh rupees a month. You get bored of 10 lakhs after some time. The satisfaction you get will be ultimately when you change somebody's life. When you change 10 people's lives. When you change a community's life. When you build a road. When you build 10 homes for the poor. That gives you the greatest satisfaction. Today, if I remember the satisfaction of having worked in the IAS and later in the ILO, it's the happy faces. People come to me, even now they would have forgotten me, but they'll come and say, my father has spoken to me about you, because I was able to, I don't remember 99% of the cases. People thank me for that I allotted some loan or some money for building a house. Those days cement was very scarce. Cement was controlled. So I ensured a system by which first come, first served. People who came first got their cement to build homes. Small things you don't even think of, things you forget. But people come to you and say, oh, you are so-and-so, you are Joseph, you're MP Joseph. Sir, my father has told me, or I remember that we were able to build a house because of the cement you allotted to us. Small things. You won't even remember it. People come. Somebody the other day came and said, sir, you gave us the first TV in Paravur or some village near Paravur. Television was new those days. And I believe that I gave a TV. I can't remember, but that's the sort of help you can. I spoke of helping the poor, social change. But you can build bridges, you can build roads, you can build houses for the poor, you can build schools. When a school building is coming crashing down or likely to crash down, you can build schools, you can save the environment, you can plant trees. You take an initiative, plant trees, and people will plant it. That's the sort of reputation and glamour that you have, and the feeling of power, the people's feeling that you have power. All this combined together. So take up social causes, and this is an opportunity to take up social causes. And I'm repeating what I said earlier. This is a powerful job, but use that power when you get it. Use the power for doing good. Change things for the better. Now, as I said earlier, this is one of the best services in the world. So what are the reasons? These are some of the reasons I mentioned. One is, of course, great opportunities, a variety of jobs, good money, good car, house, gunmen, whatnot. It's a glamorous job. You find your name in the papers. You can bring about social change. It's a powerful job. Who doesn't like power? Everybody loves power. But use the power to do good. And why is it the best in the world? There's one more reason. It's one of the best jobs in the world. That's how I began. I said I rate the Indian civil service far superior to the UN civil service, not maybe in terms of salaries. Salaries are 10 times, 15 times. I was getting a salary of 5,500 rupees a month when I got my first opportunity to go to the UN. And out of those 5,500, I was paying a tax of about 500 rupees. So what I got in hand was a very meager amount, 4,500 or 5,000, because there are other cuts as well. When I went to the UN, my salary had increased from 5,500 to 55,000, 11 times, 10 times, 11 times more. 11 times because what I got in hand was 5,000, where I started getting 55,000, and the UN salary is tax-free. So there are, of course, but in spite of that, I think one of the greatest regrets I have is that I did not come back from the UN back into the service in Kerala when I would have been a chief secretary, and I could have been a chief secretary for 2.5, 3 years, because I was the topper in my batch in Kerala and the youngest. So I would have become chief secretary, and all the others, including my colleagues, including Jay Kumar, who's a batchmate of mine, would have all retired by the time I had retired. So they of course, Jay Kumar always goes around saying that if I thought I got into the UN because of my abilities, I'm completely mistaken. He's, as you know, K. Jay Kumar, who's taken over as the chairman of the Travancore Devaswam board. He has got a lot of humor in what he says. So in one of those meetings where I and he both were there, he was saying, and he was saying Joseph thinks he got into the UN because because of his merit, because he can do this, he can do that. That's all absolute bullshit. He got into the IAS because we all prayed for him. Everybody understands Malayalam, I hope. Ganapati Kshetrathil പോയിട്ട് എത്ര തേങ്ങ അടിച്ചുവെന്നറിയോ ഈ ജോസഫിനെ UN-ൽ കിട്ടണേ, ഇവിടുന്ന് പോയി കിട്ടട്ടെ, because only if I go he could become a chief secretary and so on. So the point is that one of the regrets I have is not coming back in time to take over as chief secretary here. So that was an opportunity that was missed out. The point I'm making is that the IAS is superior to the UN civil service, not maybe in terms of money and the actual cash and things you get it, but in many other ways. And why is it so? Because the UN service is not based on a UPSC style international exam or even a national exam. It is, the civil service is a meritocracy. If you get it because of your merit. If you don't get it, you don't get it because you were not good enough. You didn't have the answers, or if you had the answers, you didn't write it properly in the exam. If you wrote it properly, you wrote too long or too short, or you made a mess of your interview. That's why you didn't get it, your merit. Merit has many aspects to it. Merit is not only the knowledge, the information you have. Merit is the ability to convert that information into knowledge, into analysis, and to be most important, and that's where I think training institutions like this come in. The ability to translate what you have in here into 10 lines in 7 minutes in a piece of paper. You might have all the wisdom, all the knowledge in the world, but if you can't write down what you know about that subject in 7 minutes into 10 lines, and do that for 20 other questions, and do that over 9 papers, then everything that you have stored in your brain is useless. So the IAS exam is also knowledge, it's hard work, it's also practice. Practice writing the answers. 7 minutes for an answer, that is 10 sentences long. You got to write 20 of them. If you write one, the first 10, that's like any exam. But the only thing here is, it is not like getting a distinction or a rank, a distinction in say BSc. Here it is, you got to be the first 100 if you want to make it into the IAS among the 10 lakhs who apply. The percentage, if you're good students of mathematics, the percentage is minute. So you have to beat everybody else. You're not competing to get 75% marks. You're competing to beat all the others. It's a race against 10 lakh or 7 lakh people, 10 lakh people who applied and 7 lakhs who wrote. So it is that is very important. And that is where beating the other person. When you write the exam, every one of you is a competitor. Remember, there are no friends when you write that exam. You're not writing to get a distinction or to pass the exam or to get 60% marks. You're writing the exam to beat the other person. If there are 130 here, you're writing the exam to beat the other 129. It's competition. Remember that. So every mark counts, every half mark counts. And the reason why I would say that the UN civil service is inferior to the Indian civil service is because your selection, the UPSC selection, is based on merit. It's a meritocracy. It's through an exam, like the UPSC, that's conducted all across India. The UN has no such system. I was selected because I was Labour Commissioner in Kerala for 6 years, and they wanted somebody who had at least 5 years experience in labour matters, and they couldn't find anybody, I mean, in that age group at that time. So they chose me, not because I wrote an exam along with 1 lakh others from across the world, no. So this is a meritocracy. It is based on how you do in that preliminary, in the written exam, and then of course in the interview. Thankfully, and when I say meritocracy, thankfully, today, as yet, there is no means of influencing the system to get you more marks. You can't go chasing after your paper to find out who's valuing it in Chhattisgarh or in Assam and try to get more marks. No, it simply depends on what you have written there in that paper. So there is no means of influencing the system. If people could influence the system, I couldn't influence sitting in a corner of Kerala, the southwest corner of India. Somebody else would have influenced it from Delhi and Bombay and, I don't know, Bangalore and Hyderabad. There are sons of, in my batch, the son of the then Foreign Secretary, Jagat Mehta. His son Vikram Mehta was my batchmate. He had a rank lower than me. So if influencing was possible, I would not have been selected to the IAS. Where do I come from? I come from the southern, western part of Kerala. At least now Kerala everybody knows. Cochin people know across the world, across the country. Those days they couldn't even pronounce Kerala correct. They would say Karela. Karela means, as some of you know, Hindi means bitter god, Kaipakya. So Kerala was such a ignored place those days. And yet, and I come from a minority, double minority. I'm a linguistic minority. Less than 3% of India's population speak the language I speak, Malayalam, or the language you speak. On top of that, I'm a religious minority. I don't think there are even 3% Christians in India today. So a religious minority within a linguistic minority, and yet I made it. Merit. So that is what is very different about the UPSC. It's based on merit. If the son of, say, a minister in the union cabinet tries to write the exam, he's not going to make it. No minister's son will make it. Unless, of course, he's good. He's not going to make it because his father is a minister. I'm also the son-in-law of Sri K.M. Mani. But he came into the picture much after, not before. I made it, and so he wanted me to be his son-in-law, not the other way around. So you can't really influence the system. Nobody can. And that means what you write in the exam, what you study beforehand, how you orient yourself for it, the attitude that you have. And finally, what you write on that piece of paper, that is what ultimately counts. And that is the most important thing. Am I boring you? If so, please raise your hands. Is it okay to go on these lines? Or San Jose has said yes. They all love you. Platonic love. So how do you make it to the civil services? There's no formula, there's no mantra to make it. If anybody tells you if you do this, and this, you're going to make it? No, I don't think so. There's no formula at all. Each year the exams might be very different from the previous years. It could be the same as well. There's no mantra, there's no formula. But there are some basic ground rules, some of which I've already mentioned to you. Hard work. Somebody said long ago, there's no substitute for hard work. For the civil service, there's no substitute for hard work. You got to learn a lot. You got to understand a lot. Knowledge counts. Information in my days was important. Today information, Google gives you information within seconds. Where's my phone? If I want to know the height of Mount Everest, it'll give me in a second. So information is no longer a criterion for getting into the civil service. Because knowledge is processed information. So it's not information that matters anymore. It mattered in my time. to a certain extent. But now, what is important is the knowledge that you gain from these information. When you get information, how do you convert it into knowledge? So the first is good, hard work. And when I say hard work, I also mean work towards writing 9 papers, writing a preliminary. Knowledge, information, perhaps the most brilliant person in Kerala will not, if he writes the IAS, make it to it. Because you need a certain orientation for it. As I said, there are 20 questions or 22 questions or 24 questions, which you have to write in a certain amount of time, 2.5 hours. So you got to allot time for it, you got to prepare for it, how long should be your answer, how short should it be, what are the points you should focus on. If you leave out one question, you're losing 10 marks or 7 marks or something. And that can make a difference. Half a mark will make a difference between getting into the IAS and not making it, getting into one of those 23 services and not making it to any one of them. So each half a mark counts, each mark counts. So hard work is, I think, part of it. It's very important. Hard work is absolutely essential. No doubt about it, but knowing how to study, what to study, and how to prepare for it. And when I say how to prepare for it, I also mean writing out the answer sheets as you would in an exam. But okay, model exam, yeah, model exams. Sit and write. If your optional is, let's say, sociology, write out sociology answer papers in the 2.5 hours as you would if you're sitting in an auditorium. That's the only way to make it. And if you do that, if you've done it 5 times or 10 times or even 3 times, when you go there and sit in the in the college to write the exam, you will feel you've done it before. You will feel things will come rushing to you. You won't have to waste your time. You know what question to answer, what question not to answer. So do that. Practice, 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 practice. The 3 P's of success, or the 5 P's of success: practice, 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 practice. So what are they looking for when you write? When I say what you write is important as much as what you have in your head. And when I say what you should write, I repeat what I said earlier, it's your knowledge. Information today comes easy. You can get what you want to know from the internet, from anywhere else. But then it's knowledge that you're looking after, the depth of knowledge that you have. And how do you get knowledge? You analyze information, you process information. You should develop the ability, young lady there, listen to me or go out at the back. You have to learn to process information. I'm speaking to you. You got to learn to process information into knowledge. So that processing, that analysis of information is very important in the IAS. It's not your information. They want to know how your mind is thinking, how, given a certain problem, how do you analyze it and write it well in that sheet of paper. Given any situation, you should be able to look at the situation from different angles. What happens if I look at it from this angle? What happens if I look at it from that angle? That's analysis. There's a train accident. Somebody was pushed out of a train the other day. Not an accident, but a deliberate effect. A young girl. Why did that happen? How can it be prevented in future? How do we make our trains safer for young ladies, young and old, and for men? A problem that you have, you should have the curiosity to analyze it and find out solutions for it. You may be in charge of the railways one day, and you may be the Secretary Railway Board or the Ministry of Railways. You got to look at problems and find solutions for it. And that's where the analysis comes in. And to get that, you should be curious. Curiosity, jitnyasa, Malayalatila. You should have that curiosity. Why did this happen? Why was the girl pushed out? What happened? How can it be prevented? Or why did a bus catch fire? And if a bus caught fire, why should all the 30 in it die? Could we have not saved lives? Maybe 1 or 2 I can understand, but why 30 lives? What was wrong with the design of the bus? What could be done to ensure that the next time a bus catches fire like that, or everybody is able to escape in short time? Curiosity. Curiosity to find answers. Curiosity to look at solutions. That's what analysis is all about. Looking at problems from different angles so that you come to solutions. And also look at the impact of what's happening. Impact of, say, a policy decision. a policy decision to import crude oil from Russia. A policy, what are the ramifications, what is good, what is bad? To be able to analyze what happens if he stops, as Trump wants us to, import of crude oil from Russia. What are the ramifications? What will be the impact? How will prices go up? How will it affect our prices? Will Reliance run into losses because they get the bulk of the oil? So these are the analysis that you should learn to analyze situations, analyze problems, think and analyze. That's what very important, and that's very important, and that's extremely, extremely important. I'll come to the exam, the structure of the exam. I don't know how much of you know it, you might know it, so I might not go into tremendous details. I will just make this point which I said earlier, that you see 10 lakh people apply for it, 7 lakh write it, and ultimately if you are in the general category, you're not an OBC, you're not a scheduled caste, you're not a scheduled tribe, then you've got to be in the first 40 or 50 to make it into the IAS. So from 10 lakhs to 40, the first 40 is a long way. So understand that there are certain numbers that might interest you. You might know it already. I'm just repeating so that you will recall it. About 1 million youngsters like you apply for this exam every year, 10 lakhs. Out of the 10 lakhs, not everybody writes, of course, but about 7 to 8 lakh write it. That is a very large number all across the country, and most of them are very good. They are like you. They have been preparing for this for a long time. They want to get into the services. Now, the biggest, how do I call it? The biggest, I think the biggest leap that you have to take it is at the stage of the preliminaries, in which 7 lakh youngsters like you write. From that 7 lakhs, the number of people, youngsters selected, or those who have written the preliminaries, the number who are selected for the mains is just 15,000. That's, if my mathematics is not too wrong, it's about 2%, or correct me if I'm, yeah, it's 2%. 1% would be about 7,000, 2% is 14,000, just about 2%, a very small number. Or is it 0.2? Any mathematicians here? 15,000 are selected in the preliminaries. So the biggest difficulty, the biggest gap is in preliminaries, and you got to prepare for it. A lot of people are writing it. Some might make it by chance, but don't wait for chance, because getting into the preliminaries gives you a fairly good chance of making it into one of the services. Now, out of the preliminaries, then you go and write the mains, those 9 examinations, and from the mains, about 2,500 to 3,000 students, applicants get selected, or competitors get selected. So from 10 lakhs, we came to 7 lakhs to 15,000 to a mere 3,000 at best. So that's again a long haul, a very difficult thing. And these to 3,000, they are the ones who are selected for the interview. Out of those called for the interview, out of the 3,000, 1 in 3 or 1 in 2 has a chance. So out of that 3,000 selected, or 2,500 selected, about 1,000 make it to the services. And out of that 1,000, about 100 make it to the IAS. And if you're in the general category, maybe the first 40 or the first 50 ranks. Tremendous competition. So understand that. On the one hand, be confident, as I said in the beginning. Don't be disheartened with these numbers. These numbers should not dishearten you. They should make you move forward, and that's very important. The interview comes at the end. It's got just 275 marks out of 2,025. The total of marks is 2,025. Correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody has better numbers. This is a couple of years old. 275 marks for the interview, and 1,750 marks for the 9 main subjects, including the 2 optionals. So that is where, out of the 1,750 marks, if you can score good marks, then the interview marks added to it, you should be able to make it. Interview carries 275 marks out of a total of 2,000, which is about, I think, 15% marks, which is not very high. So don't think that you can make up in the interview. You can really not make up in the interview, because all these marks are added together and the total is considered for your ranking. As I said, the preliminaries are the most difficult part of the whole exercise. The preliminaries, as you know, has two two exams. One is the general studies paper, which carries 200 marks. The other is the CSAT, the civil service aptitude test. Now, CSAT, they test your aptitude. How many of you have written the preliminaries? Raise a show of hands, please. Only one. Okay. Have you got through? No. Fine. The preliminary is very important, as I said earlier, because from 7 lakhs, the number is getting reduced to 15,000. 2% or something. So 98% is getting eliminated. Focus on that. That's most important, because if you can't get through that, you are not going to be able to write the mains or go for the interview. So focus on that at the early stages. Very, very important. The biggest load shedding, or the biggest number of students getting rejected, competitors getting rejected, applicants getting rejected, is at the stage of the preliminaries. The two papers there, one is a general studies paper that carries 200 marks, and the CSAT, civil service aptitude test. They are testing your aptitude, that also carries 200 marks, but the aptitude test, which has got, I think, things like mathematics, reasoning, ability to analyze data, I said earlier, interpret data, that is a qualifying exam. Its mark is not considered for your rankings in the preliminary. Only the mark in the general studies paper carrying 200 marks is considered for for your ranking in the preliminaries. Just two papers. One, you got to qualify, which means you got to get 33%, and since it's 200 marks, the maximum, you got to get 66%. If you get 66%, you make it, but if you get 199 out of 200, doesn't make any sense, because that 199 is not added to the marks of the general studies paper to determine your rank. Only the marks of the general studies paper is considered for the ranking. So that becomes extremely important, 200 marks. So half a mark here can make a little difference, can make a huge difference, whether you are in the 5,000, 15,000 who have been selected for the mains, or whether you are not. So that's the way to focus now. Most of you will be the first major hurdle that you'll face is the preliminary. So focus on the preliminary. Of course, I'm not saying you should not focus on the mains. The mains is also important, but unless you pass the preliminary, how can you go to the mains? So focus on the preliminary, and then once you are through the preliminary, for the next 3-4 months before the mains come up, do what I did. 3-4 months, close your door, wake up in the morning, work through, study through late at night. Neither see the sunrise nor the sunset, work for it, you'll get it. It's not so difficult as you think. If I can make it, you can make it much better. So once you get the preliminary, then it's for you to be a hermit for 4 months. Something like hermits of old days, not like the, see my fathers, they're hermits really, but hermits of yore. Shut yourself in a room. They used to pray, you study, that's a difference. And once you do that, then you will make it to the mains as well, and then we come to the interview. I'll come to the interview a little bit, very shortly. The general studies paper, as I said, is the crucial thing, because that is what determines whether you will make it past the preliminaries into the mains, whether you will come within the 15,000, from 7 lakhs to 15,000. So concentrate on that when you write for the exam for the first time. The general studies paper, unfortunately, the syllabus is kept vague. It's kept deliberately vague, so that the competition is much higher. You don't have a format, you don't have a formula to work on. By nature, they do not want questions to be too hemmed in by a definitive syllabus. They can ask you anything from under the sun. So be prepared for it, and I think once you do that, you come to the main exams. I'm not going to go into details of the main exams, because none of you have so far written the preliminary yet, except that young lady from there. So your focus should be on the preliminaries. And once you do that, then, as I said, work like a hermit. And I'm sure you will make it past the preliminary, you will make it past the mains, and then the mains, of course, has got 9 papers. I'm not going into details over it. I don't think for going into details, I'll need a presentation, which I have not brought. So, 9 papers, but you got enough time. You got about 4 months between the preliminaries and the mains, I think. More than 4 months. The preliminaries was in May, isn't it? And the mains will be in December, January? September. It's already over. Oh. When did the results come for the preliminaries? No, I think the preliminaries results came recently. No, sorry. The mains came, of course. Right. You got 3 or 4 months to study it. So, yeah, I would say focus on preliminary, but have a little profile on the mains as well, because the time between that is shorter than I thought. I thought you get a good 5-6 months. No, it doesn't. Absolutely right. So you got to keep a focus on the mains as well. I'll skip the mains because it's too elaborate for me to go into detail about it in this time. It's got 9 papers. 2 are optionals. You choose an optional like sociology. You're all sociology. No, you're from other areas as well. Whatever subject you choose, you got to write the lower and the higher papers in that subject. Let me tell you my experience personally. As I said, I did my physics here, and then I did my physics MSc from the Cochin University, CUSAT. I think I got the 2nd rank from CUSAT. I got the 3rd rank in the Kerala University here. So I thought I was a good physicist. So I chose physics when I wrote the first time. I wrote physics as my optional. Both the low and those days you can choose 2 optionals which are different. Now you can choose only one. Sociology you choose, it's higher sociology and lower sociology. Those days it could be 2 separate ones. So I chose physics and I think, yeah, I chose physics higher and physics lower. And believe you me, if I did not make it to the IAS the first time, if I dropped ranks and got only into the Indian Police Service, it's because of the poor marks I got in physics. The subject I thought I knew well, I did the worst of all. Out of 200 marks, I think I got some 50 or 55 in physics higher, physics lower, and an equally disappointing percentage. 50, 60% would mean about 30% or even lower in the higher physics. So the point I make to you is simply this. Just because, like me, I studied a subject 3 years, physics, undergraduate 2 years, postgraduate 5 years. Because I studied physics for 5 years, I thought I'll be very good at it, but I was not. The reason is that when we study for an exam at the undergraduate level and at the postgraduate level, we study it for writing an exam of the Kerala University or the Cochin University or the Calicut University. The whole idea is to pass it, to get a certain amount of pass or get a good mark or a good rank. That's not enough. And most of the answers that you write in an undergraduate exam or a postgraduate exam is all something you can study and go and write. There's a certain repetition of questions. The syllabus is only so much. Not so in the mains, in the IAS. It's a wide field. And what they test for in the optionals is your fundamental knowledge about the subject. I got a good rank in physics for my MSc, but I didn't know the fundamentals. Because I didn't know the fundamentals, I couldn't write an answer which the examiner, by which the examiner realized that I was bullshitting. That I didn't know the fundamentals and I was writing off the cuff. Writing from memory, writing from things I learned in the book, Newton's rings and whatnot. So the point I make again is what I said earlier. When you choose an optional, choose something. Don't necessarily choose a subject that you have done a 5 years master's or a postgraduate. Do that if you're confident about it. But choose a fresh subject. Because as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, when you choose a new subject, or 22-year-old, you go into the fundamentals. You go from the A, B, C, D of it. You start from the basics. You start studying, say, political science. In the second time, when I wrote the second time, I gave up physics. I chose political science and international relations instead. Both new subjects for me. I had no clue what political science was because I was a science student and I thought arts was, But then I realized that, so I had to start from scratch. I had to ask myself, political science, how can politics be a science? The curiosity in me asks questions. How can politics be a science? Why does Aristotle say these things? Why did Plato say that? International relations. I know relations between a father and a mother. I know relations between a mother and a child. I know relations between a teacher and the student. But international relations, how can there be relations internationally? So you ask fundamental questions to yourself when you choose a new subject, when you are 20, 21 years old. I'm not saying that necessarily choose a new subject. If you're very confident of the fundamentals of the subject you've chosen, certainly go by it. Otherwise, choose a new subject because at your age, when you're 21, 22, 23, 25, 28, 30, you can write exams today till you're 30. or even more if you're an OBC or a scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe. When you start a new subject at that age, then you go into the fundamentals. Why this? Why is it called political science? How can politics be a science? Shouldn't it be an art? Shouldn't it be confusion, political confusion? It can't be a science. A science is methodical. A science, the results have to be the same when the same thing is repeated in another context 5 years later. In politics, you don't get that repetition. So why political science? And why science? So you start from the basics. You start to understand the subject. And once you understand the fundamentals, if you've not gone really higher up in your books, still if you know the fundamentals, you can answer the questions that the UPSC asks you, because we are looking at, number one, understanding whether you know the fundamentals of that subject. Number two, whether you are able to build, analyze, and come out with solutions based on those fundamentals. So similarly for international relations, I had no clue at that time what international relations was. I read just one book, a book called International Relations by someone called Hans Morgando. I think he's still read. From the beginning, he started from scratch about what relations were, what international relations were. Then he went on to explain what influence was, what power was, how do you define power, how do you define influence. I spoke of power earlier. So he went on to describe that. So what is power internationally? What is soft power? What is power of arms? All this he explained, and it was a fascinating reading. At that age, I was reading from beginning. It helped me to understand what a new subject from scratch. And that's the advantage. I'm not saying necessarily, please don't get me wrong, don't go and change your subject just before, because I said so. Each of you have to take a decision yourself. Taking two new subjects, in my case, was an eye-opener for me. Physics I learned when I was from the first year in college, first year in BSc, maybe even in school you learned physics. You didn't learn political science there. You didn't learn international relations there. So my knowledge was not based on solid foundations, solid pillars. It was hish-hash. But when I learned a new subject, I learned it from the beginning. Try to understand what each word meant and try to build on it. So that is why you won't believe it, in international relations, a new subject, I got something like 160 out of 200. And in political science, something like 125 or 100, I don't remember. But extremely good marks. And that is why I got into the IAS, the first 50 or 60, and the topper from Kerala. I would not have made it if I had not chosen these two new subjects. Because if I had gone for physics again, I think I would have still been working in the State Bank of India, which was my first job. So these are just a few clues to help you. Don't take everything I say as the final word. Each of you have to take your decisions yourself. It's your decision, your abilities, your thinking, your opportunities, your life. Let's come to the interview. I'm sure you'll all make it to the preliminary, to the mains, and then to the interview. As I told you, it's just 275 marks for the interview. So it can't really, if you've done badly, if you're in one of the lowest ranks in the written, then the interview will not go and really bring you up unless you're brilliant in the interview, and vice versa. If you've done extremely well in your mains, and you got out of the 1750 for the main, for the optionals, for the mains, out of 1750, if you scored a good mark, then the interview, even if you do slightly badly, you will still make it. There are people who have made it to the IAS getting very low marks in the interview, and vice versa, who have done badly in the written but have made it because they've got good marks in the interview. By the way, if you are called for the interview, that means you got a 1 in 2 chance of making it into one of the services. To make it to the IAS, you got to be among the top 100 or top 50 if you are from the general category. The interview is, of course, a challenge, but do not overemphasize the importance of the interview. As I said, if you have done badly in the written interview, the interview by itself will not help you out, and vice versa. Because the interview marks is just 14% of the total. Out of 2075, 2025, I think. 2025 total marks, the interview carries only 275 marks. Not very great. We call it an interview, but it's really a test. It's a personality test. They've tested your knowledge in the mains. They have tested your knowledge about science, physics, whatever, in the mains and in the optionals about the subject you have chosen to go into depth. So the interview is not a test of your knowledge. It's a test of your interview. When they ask you a question in the interview, they're not trying to find out how much you know about the subject. They're trying to find out how you answer the question. The personality that comes out when you answer the question. They attempt to find out if you're an honest person, whether you have a positive mind. Or are you someone who tries to wriggle his way out by bluffing or telling lies, by being dishonest? That's what they're trying to find out. So it is not a test of your knowledge. There are people I know, I mean, according to them, they answered about 20, 25 questions. They asked about 90%, they said, I don't know. Said, I don't know. Madam, I don't know. I didn't study that. Sorry, I studied long ago, I had forgotten it. In spite of that, they scored very high marks in the interview. So it's a test of your personality, not your knowledge. So if you don't know an answer, say no, I don't know. I didn't look it up, or I've not read that part of it. It's not an area that I'm quite familiar with. Even if you answer a lot of the questions in the interview saying I don't know, then don't keep saying I don't know the same way. Change your answer so that it doesn't bore them too much. The point I make is that it is not your knowledge, but your personality. How do you say you know? How do you say, if you know an answer, how arrogantly are you answering it? Are you challenging the interview board? If you are sure about your answer, and the person on the interview board, knowing that you are correct, still challenges you and tries to prove you wrong. He knows you're right, you know you're right, but he says, no, it's wrong. That is not the answer. The answer is this. How do you respond to it? How do you tell him that this is the right answer without offending him? How do you manage to put your views across without being offensive, without being nice about it? So that is your personality. That's a personality that comes out. And that's the one they are trying to figure out. All sorts of questions they can ask you. And the way it's like this, they'll pick up a subject, any subject. Supposing you're from Kerala. They're obviously, let's say they start off by asking you what is the population of Kerala, 3.6 crores. Yeah, got it right, fine. And then the next question is, how many of these, is this a population within Kerala, or does this include migrants who have come from outside? Does it include Malayali youngsters like you, all of whom you are today in Canada and Australia, New Zealand, Europe and US and UK? Does it include the out migrants or not? And when you say yes or no, whatever your take on the subject is, he might challenge you. It is how honest you are in dealing with your knowledge, how honest you are in dealing with your lack of knowledge. We are not Google, we don't know everything. So there's a huge area where we lack knowledge. But how do you deal with it? That's the one that brings out your personality. So if you answer the first question right, the population of Kerala is right, they'll go next step. How many of these are domestic migrants who have come from Orissa? If you're able to answer that right, they'll say how many have gone out of Kerala? What is the population, say, of out migrants from Kerala? How many of these out migrants are in India and how many are in other countries? Each question becomes, the level of difficulty of each question becomes progressively higher. The questions get more, it starts with a simple question, what's the population of Kerala? Who doesn't know that? We all know it. The next question becomes slightly more difficult, then more difficult, then more difficult, then more difficult, then more difficult, until at the end of the day, you might have to confess. At that great level of difficulty, sir, I don't know, or madam, I don't know. Remember, you can't bluff them. They are all experts on it. They've come prepared. Even if they have forgotten what they've done, like me, they've come prepared with the answer. So if you bluff them, they'll catch you. And when they catch you, they hook you and see how you respond to that hook. They make you go around their little thumbs. So it's very important then to be truthful. If you don't know the answer, if you don't know the fact, say so. As I said, any question that's asked, I spoke about population, any question that's asked, the level of difficulty goes up and up and up and up until a state where you are unable to answer. I don't know if there are cases where it got to a stage where the questioner had no more questions on that and gave up and said, okay, and handed you over to the next interviewer. Quite possible. And understand this, when you are answering the first interviewer, when you are looking at him, everybody else is looking at you. They're looking at how you are answering, how honest you are, how sincere is your face, where are your eyes? Are you bluffing? When you bluff, it shows, doesn't it? So it's very important. It's your personality that counts. How are you sitting? How are you answering? What is your language? When they try to needle you, when they try to make you fret and fume, how do you respond? These are all, how do you walk in? How do you sit down? All this are very important. They'll challenge you even if you're right and say, no, that is not the right answer. The right answer is this. And the right answer they say is this would be their wrong answer. And it's how you deal with it that's important. It's not actually the knowledge that you have. It is how you deal with each question. Questions, I don't know how far this is true. Nobody has asked me, but I'm told some of the interviewers have asked, how many stairs did you climb up when you walked up to the first floor? If you have not counted it, don't give us wrong answer. And if you spend your time counting stairs when you climb, that also might give an aspect of your personality, which could be good, which could be bad. Are you spending your time climbing stairs when you're going to a UPSC interview? There again, that's the point I say. It's not what you answer. Even if you have climbed the stairs and counted the stairs, when you say it in such a manner that it doesn't look ridiculous. And even if you have not counted it, nobody counts stairs every time you climb. So what? It's how you answer it that matters. Not, oh, sir, there are 37 steps. He might challenge you and say it's not 37, it's 36. So it's not the correct answer that matters. It's the way you answer it. Remember that. So the story of stairs, and there are lots of funny stories going around. And funny answers too. I don't know if I have time to say a short, I don't know whether it's true, but there is a story going around that somebody said he's from Kerala. He was in the interview sitting on this side. The panel was there. 4 or 5 of them, okay. It's an arc form normally. And one of them asked him, oh, you are from Kerala? Obviously a question meant to figure out how he'll respond to silly questions. He said, how many crows are there in Kerala? Crow, kaka. How many crows are there in Kerala? Obviously a stupid question. And don't say the stupid question is stupid. The interviewer, I believe, smiled. And smiled in such a way, saying, yeah, you were asking me a question which doesn't quite have a real answer. I don't know. But since you asked me this question, I'll tell you a figure which I know I'm making up. You know it's making up. Very clearly I'm making it up. Don't have any doubt that I'm making it up. It's a made-up answer. Sir, there are 11 lakhs of crows in Kerala. He said, no, it's not 11 lakhs. There are 12 lakhs, the interviewer said. He said, oh, 12 lakhs. 11, no, sir, but I think you have got yesterday's figure. 11 lakhs is today's figure. 1 lakh flew away to Tamil Nadu last night. So it's how you answer it. It's not so much your knowledge and that matters as the way you answer these questions. Finally, I'm sure you'll all get selected. You'll go to the academy, Mussoorie, for the 2-year training. That's the best part of the whole thing. The training in the academy is very level up. It's a completely different level. Mussoorie is in the foothills of the Himalayan hills. You can see Mussoorie's lights on a clear night from Dehradun, which is the capital of Uttarakhand. It's a 2-year training program. A lovely time to be, a wonderful time, an unforgettable time. Mussoorie is like Shimla, very cold, very nice, good for romances. Not very crowded as Shimla. It's a 2-year course, 2 years training, and it's called a sandwich course. It's called a sandwich course because the first 9 months you spend in Mussoorie, then you spend 1 year in the state to which you are allotted, then you go back for 3 months, back to the academy for a wrap-up. So 9 months, 3 months is the bread, and the butter and the tomato is a sandwich, which is the one which is in the middle. The 1 year you spend in the state to which you're allotted. I was fortunate to be allotted to Kerala, so my training was in Kerala. I was trained here once you are trained. Once you begin your training in a state, you get a car, you get a house at times. Yeah, you get a house, you get a peon, you get an office. You're called an assistant collector under training, ACUT. You might see some boards over here called ACUT. That means assistant collector under training. That means it's the second year, or the 9 months is over in Mussoorie. They've come here for the 1 year training. So it's a 2-year program, 9 months in Mussoorie, 1 year in the state you're allotted, 3 months later for a wrap-up at the academy. The examination and the interview gets you there, to the IAS, to the IPS, to the civil service. What makes you a civil servant? What makes you a good IAS officer or IPS officer or an IRS officer is the 2 years training. It changes you. It gives you tremendous confidence. If you are afraid to speak in public, it makes you a public speaker. If you are a bad in let's say artificial intelligence, it makes you absolutely an expert in it. Everything. Basically the law of the land. The CRPC, the IPC, it's got new names now, the Bharatiya, sorry? Nyaya? Parisha Adaram, you'll get it. The Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. But a CRPC ki baare, what is that called? Pidichu. So these two, they teach you because ultimately they teach you the Constitution first, because everything you do thereafter should be based on the Constitution. You can't do anything which is outside the Constitution. So the first focus is on the Constitution of India, what it means, its history, its background, what you can do, what you cannot do, what are possible with it. So the Constitution, a lot of time is spent on the Constitution.